Johannesburg, a hive of activity tonight. SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena is at the OR Tambo International Airport, watching arrivals and sharing the significance of various heads of state. Let's go live to her now. Sophie, good evening. A big night as BRICS leaders continue to touch down. In just a few hours, Chinese President Xi Jinping arrives, a significant trading partner of South Africa's. What's the atmosphere there like?
Well, I think you are correct, Iman. You know that China is South Africa's largest trading partner currently. And you know that the relationship between the two countries, particularly when you look at pre-1994, China did support the struggle. You know that the Communist Party of China has strong relationship with the Communist Party of South Africa and the African National Congress. You know that all the former leaders of South Africa at some point in time did visit China, the same with the previous leaders of China post 1994. And now this is President Xi Jinping's fourth visit to South Africa, and it is the second international trip this year for President Xi Jinping. You know very well that he has made a commitment that he is going to increase trade between South Africa and China. But I think for business, the concern is that the trade balance, it is skewed in favor of China. And I think these are some of the issues that President Cyril Ramaphosa will discuss with President Xi Jinping.
An elegant diplomatic solution in Sergei Lavrov's arrival in South Africa. We understand he touches down at around 3 a.m. South African time, and he is the Russian FM. Well,
the Foreign Affairs Minister of Russia, Sergei Lavrov, is arriving tomorrow morning, actually. He is expected to touch down tomorrow morning. And he will then dash to the meeting of the Foreign Affairs Ministers of BRICS. You know that the officials were engaged in discussions finalizing the Johannesburg second declaration and also looking at some of the outstanding issues. Key is the issue of the expansion of BRICS, and they have made a recommendation to foreign affairs ministers, and the foreign affairs ministers will discuss these documents and present the documents before the summit, where the heads of state and government will take a final decision. And therefore we expect Sergei Lavrov to arrive tomorrow, but you know that during the Heads of State and Government Summit, the President of Russian Federation, President Vladimir Putin, will participate virtually.
Before we get to a little bit more on the program for tomorrow regarding the Heads of State Summit, Nigeria, Sophie, sending its VP Kashim Shettima. Does this possibly have anything to do with the precipitous political situation in Niger and President Bola Tinubu's chairing of ECOWAS? What have you heard, Sophie?
Well, I think the president of Nigeria is not coming. You know that he's currently the chair of ECOWAS. You are aware that in West Africa, in the Sahel region, you have that challenge of Niger, a coup in Niger. You know that weekend you saw the chiefs of the military in ECOWAS discussing intervention mechanism that would include the military intervention. And I think because of the situation in Niger, I think they took a decision that he shouldn't come. But also internally, Nigeria, the current president is facing a challenge. You know that a candidate who lost is challenging his victory in court, and therefore you have a lot of issues around the president of Nigeria. But the big one, I think, is this issue of Niger. We know that the vice president has touched down at a private airport, where he is going to then join other leaders on behalf of Nigeria. But I think the problem here, it is the question of Niger. But we also expect the Prime Minister of India to arrive tomorrow. We saw the President of Brazil arriving this morning, and many other leaders are expected to arrive tomorrow. Cuba is arriving tomorrow. Venezuela is arriving tomorrow. It is going to be a busy day tomorrow.
All right, so just give us the lay of the land. Architecturally, what's planned?
Can you repeat your question?
What's on the agenda tomorrow, Sophie? How's the program going to run?
Well, tomorrow it is more of a retreat for the leaders in the afternoon. In the morning, President Cyril Ramaphosa will host President Xi Jinping for the state visit in the morning, and then they will then join other 5 leaders of BRICS and President Putin participating virtually, and it will be a behind-the-scenes meeting, and only on Wednesday where we'll get comments from the 5 leaders, and of course another meeting with African leaders, including the leaders of the South, those who have been invited. And of course, as you earlier on alluded to, the Secretary General of the United Nations is going to participate on Thursday before he leaves South Africa and going back to the United States of America, an important one, because I'm told that his message is going to be strong in relation to the transformation of the multilateral institutions, including the Security Council, the United Nations Security Council. And I think he is going to have harsh words for the developed North, saying that they are not doing enough to assist the developing South, particularly post-COVID-19 and the war in Ukraine. And these issues, of course, will form part of the agenda of the leaders, because they will also discuss the geopolitics.